Have you ever felt lost, untethered, searching for something more? Welcome to Angelic Footprints, where the spirit meets the road on a journey to self-healing and rediscovery. I'm Dagmar, your host, psychic medium and seasoned traveler. Each week, we'll explore the world of angels and personal transformation. We're going to dive into compelling histories and captivating mythology. You're going to hear remarkable, real-life angel encounters and discover how you too can connect with the angels guiding your path. Whether it's through practical tips, meditation techniques, or stories that resonate deeply, Angelic Footprints is here to light your way. From mystical journeys to profound self-discovery, let's embark on this transformative journey together. Are you ready to find your angelic guide? Then subscribe to Angelic Footprints today and step into a world where angels walk beside you every step of the way. Angels, spirituality, healing. Let's ignite your transformation. Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Angelic Footprints podcast. Today I would like to talk about heaven, a notion that we are introduced to as children. If you are a good little boy or girl, you go to heaven. And when someone dies, like a family member, we often say that they have gone to heaven. But what is heaven? I'd like to take you through a bit of background around heaven and what might it mean and how it relates to angels. My research on this topic comes from quite a few websites, but I'll also provide specific website information where it is relevant. Let's start with the term seventh heaven. Now, according to Idioms, the free dictionary, the term seventh heaven is to be in a state of bliss. Both the Muslims and the ancient Jews recognized 7 heavens corresponding to the 7 planets, the highest of which was the abode of God and the top-ranking angels. By the 19th century, the term had been extended to mean a blissful state without any religious or otherworldly connotation. Moving along, I found some definitions of 7 heavens under Wikipedia, specifically by one Julien Deschaneux in the book Creation and Contemplation, The Cosmology of the Quran and Its Late Antique Background, which states that the notion or belief in a cosmos structured or tiered into 7 heavens likely originates or derives from the 7 visible heavenly bodies. They are Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, the Moon, and the Sun. Over the ages, there have also been lots of creative artists that have used the term seventh heaven in their songs. Now, these artists are across various genres and interpretations of the phrase seventh heaven. Seventh Heaven by Angelina Jordan, Seventh Heaven by The Raven Age, Seventh Heaven by SRTW and Nuri featuring June Boy, Seventh Heaven by Gwen Guthrie, and another song, Seventh Heaven by Lark on Chiel. Hello Music Theory is another website that gives us songs about angels. Angel by Sarah McLachlan, Angels by Robbie Williams, Earth Angel by the Penguins, Angel of the Morning by Juice Newton, Calling All Angels by Train, Touched by an Angel by Stevie Nicks, Angel Eyes by the Jeff Healey Band, Angels Among Us by Alabama, Send Me an Angel by Real Life, and let us not forget one that wasn't on that list, Angel Eyes by ABBA. and I'm sure there's quite a few that you might resonate with or have even listened to. Let's now talk about the different levels of heaven and see how they are connected with the belief systems of different religions. According to the website biblicalchristianity.com, there are 3 levels of heaven. And in Scripture, the term heaven is not just symbolic, it refers to 3 distinct realms, each with a different purpose and meaning. Now, according to this website, the 3 levels of heaven are the first heaven, otherwise known as Earth's immediate atmosphere, the second heaven, which is outer space, including the sun, moon, and the stars, and the third heaven, known as the divine realm, the dwelling place of God. The first heaven is the atmospheric realm that surrounds Earth. This includes the air we breathe, the clouds, and the sky that we see above us. Scientifically, this realm consists of the troposphere, which extends about 20 miles above Earth, and the stratosphere, which lies above it. The Bible refers to this heaven in Genesis 6, paragraph 7, where the term heaven is used to describe the skies and air surrounding the earth. The second heaven is also known as the celestial heaven, which refers to outer space, the realm of the sun, moon, stars, and planets. In Scripture, the stars are described as being in heaven or in the sky, indicating this vast and expansive domain beyond Earth's atmosphere. In Deuteronomy 10:14, the Bible speaks of heavenly spheres beyond what is visible from Earth, acknowledging the vastness of God's creation. The third heaven is God's dwelling place, existing beyond the first and second heavens. While the Bible does not specify its exact location, it is understood to be a spiritual realm that transcends the physical universe. Although God's presence is not confined to a single place, this highest heaven is often depicted as the seat of divine authority where God reigns, angels worship, and the righteous find eternal peace. The 3 levels of heaven represent different aspects of creation and divine order. While the first heaven governs the earth's atmosphere, the second heaven extends into the cosmos, and the third heaven remains the spiritual realm of God's presence. This structure reminds us of the vastness of the universe and the great mystery of God's heavenly kingdom. What do you think about these heavens? Do you ever consider that heaven might be beyond the stars? Let's talk about another aspect of heaven which is covered in the Book of Enoch. Now, the Book of Enoch was rejected by some Jewish communities, apparently because it was considered to be heretical and inconsistent with the Torah. When we research the neverthirsty.org website, it tells us that the Book of Enoch is one of the pseudo-pigrapha books and was apparently written during the 2nd or 1st century before Jesus Christ. It is noted that this book is usually regarded to be the Ethiopic apocalypse of Enoch. Much of the Book of Enoch is pretty grim. It uses vivid imagery to predict doom and the final judgment of evil. There's a heavy emphasis on angelology and demonology, and a large portion of the book is devoted to filling in the backstory of the story of Genesis, chapter 6, 1-4. In the ChristianFaithGuide.com, it talks about the 10 heavens in the Book of Enoch. Now, we know that the Book of Enoch is an ancient Hebrew religious text, and it describes 10 levels of heaven. These heavens are detailed in the 2nd book of Enoch, where Enoch, being a faithful servant of God, ascends through the different realms. Enoch was allegedly Noah's great-great-grandfather, and In Genesis 5:24, it says he walked with God, meaning he was taken directly to heaven without experiencing death. Throughout his journey, Enoch encounters angels, fallen angels, giants, and divine beings, gaining insight into God's judgment, mercy, and the workings of the universe. Let's look at these heavens in a little bit more detail. According to the book of Enoch, the first heaven is located within and above Earth's atmosphere, where the clouds, stars, and morning dew are found. This realm is also home to winged angels and 200 fallen angels, otherwise known as the Watchers, who oversee the movements of the constellations. The Book of Enoch also describes a connection between this heaven and the Great Sea, possibly referring to a vast heavenly ocean. That takes us then to the second heaven, which is described as a place of complete darkness. It's also known as the prison of darkness and despair, where the rebellious angels of Satan's army are imprisoned. These fallen angels are chained and awaiting their final judgment. The third heaven is known as the Garden of Paradise and a place of judgment. You see, the third heaven is a realm of divine paradise where the tree of life stands in a magnificent, fragrant garden. This is a place of joy and reward for the righteous. The tree of life extends deep into the Garden of Eden, and beneath it 4 rivers flow with milk, wine, honey, and oil, symbolizing abundance and divine blessing. However, this heaven also contains a terrifying place of judgment in its northern region, a realm of frozen darkness, eternal fire, and suffering. Here, sinners are punished by fierce angels using harsh weapons. The fourth heaven represents the gates of the sun and moon, and it contains 12 great gates divided between the east and west, through which the sun and moon pass. Thousands of angels dwell here, ensuring that the movements of the celestial bodies follow divine order. This realm is also home to 6 winged creatures, including the Chalkidri and phoenixes, who assist the angels. Musical angelic soldiers play instruments and sing, maintaining the harmony of the universe. That brings us to the fifth heaven, which is where the giants of regret and sorrow are. It's a solemn place of gloom and silence, inhabited by giant fallen angels called the Grigori. These beings once served God, but chose to follow Satan instead. Though their faces are withered with regret, they still sing praises to God, seeking redemption. The sixth heaven is the realm of wisdom, science, and justice. The sixth heaven is home to the 7 angelic rulers who oversees the stars, the natural order, and human affairs. These angels keep records of good and evil deeds, ensuring that justice is upheld. This realm is also inhabited by cherubim, seraphim, and phoenixes who sing divine songs beyond human comprehension. The seventh heaven is the realm of fire, light, and divine soldiers. It is a realm of pure light and divine fire inhabited by angelic warriors. These include virtues, archangels, powers, dominions, principalities, thrones, seraphim, and cherubim. This realm serves as a stronghold of heavenly armies prepared to carry out God's commands. The eighth heaven is the control of seasons and cosmic forces. It is the realm that controls Earth's seasons, rain, and drought. It is also the home of the 12 starry constellations that influence time and cosmic order. The ninth heaven is the domain of the stars and celestial movements. This is where celestial bodies move above and beyond the 12 main star constellations seen in the night sky. It is a higher realm of divine astronomy and cosmic balance, which brings us to the 10th heaven, God's throne and the highest realm. The 10th heaven is the highest of all heavens and the dwelling place of God. This is where God's throne of lightning and thunder stands, and where He judges the souls of mankind. Here countless angels surround God, singing eternal songs of praise. This heaven is also where God holds divine councils with angels and saints, making decisions about the fate of the universe. The Book of Enoch's description of the 10 heavens presents a complex spiritual world where angels, fallen beings, and celestial forces play a role in divine order, judgment, and cosmic balance. Each heaven has a unique function, from governing the movements of the stars to serving as a place of reward or punishment. Let us take now a look at the 7 levels of heaven in Islam. A lot of this is taken from the website zamzam.com. Islam defines heaven as Jannah, the paradise where good people rest after leaving their earthly body. The Holy Quran describes it as gardens of pleasure where people are rewarded after death for the good actions that they commit during their lifetimes. The Holy Quran describes it as gardens of pleasure where people are rewarded after death for the good actions that they commit during their lifetime. Hence, it is believed that if one follows the rules set by Allah, commits no sin, and stays good throughout life, they go to heaven. There are 7 levels of heaven in Islam, and each level has a different core and construction with a different prophet residing in them. The Quran calls hell Jahannam. It is a place of blazing fire and painful torments. It is described as a landscape of pits with boiling water and fire to physically torture one's spirit. Its vivid description in the Quran are a means to prevent Muslims from committing sins. Therefore, Muslims must follow every word of the Holy Book and take responsibility for their actions. What are the 7 levels of heaven then? Each of the 7 levels of heaven in Islam has a degree or grade according to which each soul is given a place. The righteousness of one's deeds decides the level of heaven where one will reside after death. Further, there are particular names of heaven in Islam depending upon their virtues. The 7 levels of heaven are as follows. The first level is Jannat al-Adan. This is the eternal place. After repenting and facing punishments for every committed sin, a Muslim is given a place in this heaven. In Surah Tabwa, Allah said that He assured His believers they would find a place in the gardens of Adan. This is where one finds the greatest acceptance from Allah and marks the biggest conquest. The rivers that flow below the gardens provide everything that one wished for. The second heaven is Jannat al-Firdaus. Firdaus refers to a garden with all kinds of plants. There are grapevines in the place, and it is the most prestigious level and is described as superior to all levels in Kutub-i-Sita. The third heaven is Jannat al-Naim. In Surah Yunus, the Almighty spoke about this level and said that people who have faith in Allah do good work. Their conviction directed them to stay good throughout their life and led them to this level. Such devotees would come across rivers flowing underneath them in the paradise of delight and become a part of this level made of iron. The fourth heaven is Jannat ul Mawa. It is a resting place made of brass for devotees and martyrs. Marwa is defined as a place where people take refuge. It has homes and dwellings. Surah Najm speaks about this level and calls it the Garden of Adobe for refugees. It exists by a lote tree which stands at the periphery of heaven. The fifth level is known as Dar-ul Khuld. It is the Garden of Immortality, where one becomes eternal or immortal. Here one lasts forever. The level is promised to those who follow their path with the utmost devotion without transgressing from their path. This level of heaven compensates for the loss and hardship that one faces in the journey and brings the voyage to a halt. The sixth level of heaven is Dar-ul Maqam. It is a level of intrinsic nature. It is where the soul finds an eternal place to stay. Surah Al-Fatiha mentions this stage of heaven as a safe place where all sufferings and tiredness vanish. It is where nothing affects the soul. The seventh level is Dar-us-Salam. It is the abode of well-being. This is the seventh level of heaven, which is the home of safety and peace. In Surah Al-Yunus, the Almighty calls back people whom He had willed to walk the straight path. Surah Al-An'am, Allah calls it a place where He would protect them. Many scholars believe that there is the eighth level of heaven called Ilion. It is a home for the perfect mu'mins, otherwise known as devotees or believers. It is an abode of the Hafaza angels who protect the souls. This is where people get the fruit of their righteous deeds. A few scholars even believe that there are 100 levels of heaven in Islam. Each level refers to a different grade. Another interpretation of 100 levels refers to the plurality of Jannah, where believers fall according to their good deeds and sins. It is believed that the distance between the two levels increases with flight. There you have it. As you can see, there are various different ideas and concepts about what heaven is and isn't. There are also many more religions and beliefs that we haven't covered here today. If you want to explore what other religions or beliefs are around angels and heaven, then do some research and see what you come up with. At the end of the day, it is like many things. It comes down to what your own beliefs are and what resonates with you. Throughout history, across different cultures and faiths, the idea of multiple heavens has provided a profound sense of hope, purpose, and justice. Whether described as layers of paradise, celestial realms, or divine abodes, these beliefs reflect a deep-rooted human longing for something beyond our earthly existence, a place of ultimate peace, reward, and spiritual fulfillment. Heaven represents the promise that goodness, faith, and righteousness are not in vain, but lead to an eternal dwelling of joy and serenity. It reassures us that suffering is temporary, that love and virtue endure, and that there is a divine order beyond what we can see. In believing in heaven, we find comfort in life's trials, inspiration to live meaningfully, and the hope of reunion with the divine and our loved ones. Whether literal or symbolic, the concept of heaven continues to shape our hearts, guiding us towards a higher purpose and a vision of eternal peace and belonging. I hope that somewhere in today's episode you have found something that gives you meaning. In the meantime, if you found this episode valuable, please share information about the show with 3 people who you believe would find it beneficial. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a 5-star review on the platform where you're listening. You yourself might find yourself at a crossroad in your life, and if you are looking for guidance and inspiration, I'd love to help you find your path with a spiritual angel reading. Contact me on info@dagmarbryant.com for more information and to make a booking. Until the next episode, blessings, and may your life be filled with hope and inspiration. Hello and welcome, everybody, to the Angelic Footprints podcast show. Today we have a very special guest, and her name is Kimberly Henry. She is the founder of Million Dollar Memoirs. Now, Kimberly has an interesting history. She was raised by 2 alcoholic parents and experienced domestic violence at home in upstate New York. At the age of 20, she was pregnant with her daughter, whose father was a drug addict. She was a couple of weeks shy from her 23rd birthday when she chose to be a single parent and left the domestic violence relationship with her daughter's father. She believes in a movement to help others heal from their past trauma. She has presented on 30 plus podcasts as a guest, and she's been a panelist on a number of open panels and a speaker in several different summits. She has started her own podcast called The Kimberly Show on YouTube. Interestingly enough, she is also the recipient of the Purple Ribbon of Courage Award by family and friends of Liza Allen Warner and the 2024 Empowerment Award by YWCA Northeastern New York. Kimberly, welcome. It is such a pleasure to have you here on the show. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Dagmar. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here and excited to be here. And you said it beautifully with my intro, so thank you.
Well, I was just wondering if there was anything else that you would like to share with our listeners, because it's very interesting. And you and I didn't talk about this at the start of the show. I can so relate to the things that we started with in your intro, having myself needing to leave a very difficult relationship, having 2 young children. And for me, I did not want to be 18, 20 years into a marriage where I was absolutely miserable,
Yeah.
but having to have that trauma that what my children effectively were being subjected to. And I know that the man that I married would never, ever in his wildest dreams agree to me pursuing this kind of path. And when I talk about this kind of path, I know that you have told me yourself that you've had angelic experiences. Please tell me a little bit about this so that our listeners can get the benefit of that.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing with me about your experience. I mean, so many women who can relate. And it's amazing that now we're in this time where, I mean, who would have thought 30 years ago I could be in upstate New York and I'm here in a space with you on the other side of the world? You know, I never would have thought I would be able to relate to another woman on the other side of the world when I was younger.
Well, technology has had many benefits, hasn't
It
it?
has, it has. And as far as angelic experiences, I feel like I've always had some sort of touch with the angelical experience, particularly after my grandmother died. My grandmother basically raised me. She was more of my mom than my grandmom. And she died in 2000. And it was 2 weeks after she died is when I left my daughter's father. And that was because when she died, I didn't know what to do. I knew that she was dying, and at the same time, I was in denial of her dying. Because in my mind, she was always going to be old when she died. I would always count to, you're going to have so many years to live to 100. So she died, and he was just very critical, was not supportive, was not caring. And so 2 weeks after she died, I was like, what am I doing? Like, this is not working for me. And so when she died, I had a dream, because it often happens in dreams, which I believe that they do visit us in dreams. That's always like a magical touch for me in dreams. So I had a dream after she died and after I left him, because it was very traumatic, even more so leaving him. And in the dream, we always held hands a certain kind of way, like my left on her right. And she always had her mother's ring, which was more like her wedding ring. She didn't really have a wedding ring, and it had all of her children's birthstones on it. And I would always feel that ring on her hand when I held her hand. So in the dream, it was simply her hand holding my hand the way we always held hands. There was no voices, there was no music, there was no interaction. It was simply just holding hands. And I still believe that that was her way of letting me know that all was well, that she was okay, and that I would be okay. Because she was my person, that was my safety, my security, my stability. I always felt like I was okay when I was with her. So that was really my first time that I remember having that kind of experience, because I woke up and I was like, wow, it was so touching. Like, she was with me. It was like she never died.
That is absolutely so beautiful. And, I know of that experience myself, having had that, but I'm sure you, as well as our listeners, can relate to it. Doesn't have to be just in the form of a dream.
No.
Sometimes we can smell a
Yeah.
particular perfume, or the scent of the cigar smoke
Yeah.
or something like that. We might get a song that comes on the radio, and it's so random.
Yeah. One story I have with music is I have a best friend that lives in Germany. And we met in 1993. She was a foreign exchange student that she came here, and somehow I convinced my alcoholic parents, who was raging alcoholics at that point, to let her stay with us for 4 weeks, and they agreed, which I'm super grateful, because she's been more like my sister than my sister, you know? So I didn't get to visit her until 2018, because being a single mom, I couldn't take my daughter out of the country without my daughter's father's permission. So we were able to maneuver it. We got approval and we got her passport. So in 2018, I finally get to go to Germany, and I finally get to meet her parents in person. I finally get to see her home and their home. And then we took a magnificent trip from Germany and took the train to Italy, where my daughter was, and the Alps just fouled at us. It was so amazing. We get into Germany, and actually I got a couple of music stories, but this is like the most that threw me off. So a couple of days went by as I got in there, and she lives near Stuttgart. So we were hanging out in her little village, and we went to a little like plaza mall, and we walked into the mall, and I'm hearing music. And my mom adored Elvis Presley. When I say adored, I used to joke with her that she would have an affair with him in a heartbeat. At one point when I was a teenager, Elvis was plastered all over the living room wall and the dining room wall. Like, Elvis was everywhere when I was a teenager. So I'm in the mall with her, and I'm like, oh my God, Petra, there's Elvis playing. What are the chances of me being here in this moment in Germany for the first time, and I'm hearing the song that she loved? It was Suspicious Minds. And that was bizarre. So there was another time where I was going through a really hard time after my mom died in 2013. And I was with my ex, and we were going from store to store shopping on a Sunday. Each and every store that we went into, and this was right after she died, all Elvis songs in every single store, like 5 stores. Every single store had an Elvis song. By the 5th store, I looked at him. I said, now she's just messing with me.
So funny. I mean, come on, Mom, come on down. In
Yeah.
case you didn't get the message the first 4 times, here I am now the 5th time, just making sure that you know that I'm right there, right?
Exactly. And then the first time I flew to Vegas by myself, I was nervous. It was my first time flying within this country solo. And going from New York to Vegas is a pretty long trip, like a few hours. And so I leave work and I'm driving to the airport. And I'm nervous about going through security, finding a parking spot. My anxiety was up. And Elvis was on the radio. So I'm like, oh, okay, like this is what her telling me, like I can calm down and everything's going to be okay. So I text my friends who were already in Vegas and they were already at the event that I was going to. And I text them and I said, I'm just getting to the airport. And she wrote me back, I was just thinking about you because there is 3 men on the stage and they're singing Elvis.
Oh.
And at the same time, Elvis was playing on my car radio. So it was just like, wow. Yeah, my mom has always been with me, always. Like, she died in 2013, and she's the most that she comes into my dreams and music, a lot of Elvis, a lot of different music.
So would you say that your mom is your guardian angel now?
I'd say one of them, definitely. I always feel her with me. I can always feel her presence.
You know, I think your message here, if I'm getting this right, for our listeners is really to pay attention to the signs
Yeah.
that our loved ones bring us because, whether they're our loved ones in spirit or whether you consider them to be our guardian angels, it's that comfort,
Yes.
that those signs that come to us, isn't it?
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, my sister and I just had an experience last month. I woke up
Tell
on
us.
a Monday morning and I went to Facebook and I saw a Facebook group, which would be so unusual for me to see something from this Facebook group. I don't interact in it. I kind of just spy in it. So I just don't really do anything. And the first thing I see when I open up Facebook in this group is an obituary. And it was my father's cousin. And it was somebody
Oh,
that I knew of because his older sister, I was with her when she was transitioning in her life in 2022. And she started asking me questions because she was trying to get closure on her life. And she was telling me stories about this cousin because they were more like sisters. They were only a few months apart in age. They lived across the street from each other. They were like best friends when they were going through high school. And then, of course, we're talking, they were both born in 1933. That was the era that when they graduated high school, they were expected to marry, have children, take care of their families. So their lives just separated. She moved to Massachusetts. This cousin stayed here locally. So I see this obituary and I was like, wow. And it didn't occur to me at first that this was my aunt's best friend, but I knew it was my father's cousin. I knew it was their cousin. So I messaged my sister. It's a really random. I don't even know why I would see this obituary, but clearly this is our aunt and dad's cousin. So we both agreed, oh, we should go and pay respects. We go to the church and she wanted to go early. So we get there early. We're sitting outside of the church. She's telling me a story. We're sitting in the car. She's telling me a story about a house across the street. And I'm saying all of this because it was just so random. I'm overstimulated because we're at a church where my grandmother's funeral was. So I'm feeling triggered by grief and emotions because I'm remembering her funeral. I'm attempting to listen to her talk to me about this house because I didn't really care. I had no care whatsoever what she was talking about. And I'm attempting to listen to her. But at the same time, my eyes went to a person coming around the corner from the church. Now it's cold last month. It was very cold winter last month. They hit us with a lot of cold days. This woman comes around the corner of the church. I have no idea where she came from. If she came from inside the church, I don't know. So I see her out of the corner of my eye, and I'm still attempting to listen to my sister tell me about this house. But the woman comes around and she has no winter coat on, no hat, no gloves, no winter gear whatsoever. She's just coming around and she's walking on the street, walking towards my sister's car. And so finally I said to my sister, I don't mean to cut you off. I am really trying to listen to you, but who is this woman? Because she's walking towards your car. And so my sister turns around and I said, I think and I wasn't even scared. This was the whole thing. We're in a neighborhood that's pretty sketchy, that you don't know when something's going to happen, when somebody's going to do something. But I wasn't fearful. I wasn't scared. It was more of, I'm curious, what does she have to say to us? Because she was walking right towards her window. So my sister's like, maybe I should roll down the window. So she rolled down the window, but then the woman had the biggest smile on her face from cheek to cheek. And she waved. So now we're waving. But Dagmar, this woman was a spitting image of everything of my mom.
wow.
Everything. The energy, the spirit, how she walked, how she smiled, how her wave. Everything was my mom. It was like we saw my mom in some other human body.
That is so special.
It was
Absolutely so
oh, it
special.
gives me goosebumps still talking about it because I was so confused. I was just like, "Did that really just happen?" So we get out of the car, and I'm looking around, and I'm looking for her, and I don't see her, no sign of her. So we walked in the church, and now we're just, like, back into our human experience. "Okay, where we gotta go? Where's the body? What do we gotta do?" It took us 2 days for the 2 of us to talk about it. And then when we did
Mm,
talk about it, she said to me, and this is big for my sister because she's 7 years older than me. She turned to me, I had, like, day after, and she said, "I believe that that was mom telling us that she was proud of us for the 2 of us going together, and the fact that our dad would have never asked us to go. He wouldn't have expected us to go." And she's like, "I firmly believe that was mom, like, showing up to basically pat us on the back and tell us how proud she is of us that we went together."
Oh, Kimberly, thank you. Thank you for sharing that story. It's absolutely, I don't even have the words. It's breathtaking how spirit and angels come
Yeah,
to us to give us messages when either we need it or when we least expect it.
yeah,
And I'm so glad for the both of you that you've had these beautiful encounters and that they've made such a difference to you.
yeah.
Tell me, in terms of these experiences, how would you say that they have influenced your life?
Oh my gosh, in these past few months, it's made me so grateful because it's additional support, right? So I still have that support. It's not as if I lost that support because I'm choosing to reframe my thinking about death. I used to be terrified of death growing up. I was raised Catholic. So the whole ideology of death with Catholic Church was terrifying to me. And my dad would often say, "God willing," when he went to bed, and I was like, "Why are you saying that? Like, I don't want you to die." Like, so I was raised thinking that I was losing something when a death occurred, which is why I was so lost when my grandmother died, because I still had that point of view that I'm losing her love, I'm losing her support. Now, over the years, I'm in my late 40s now, and I'm not losing anything. If anything, I have additional love because I still have that connection to these people who mean so much to me. It looks different than how I want it to look because I want them here physically. I wanna be able to hug them. I wanna be able to talk to them with them in my face, and I don't get to have that attachment to how it looks. So I'm grateful that I still have that support and that love from them. So even as something as silly as one day, I was waiting for a biopsy from having, mammogram done, and
Mhm.
my mind was full. Like, I was so anxious. I didn't know when they were gonna call me. I didn't know what the results were gonna be like. I'm going through, what if it comes back cancer? What am I gonna do? What is this gonna look like? So my mind was full. And I went into the store and I wanted to get a box of tissues because again, it was a cold day a couple of months ago. And I only got a bottle of water from the store. And I was so confused with myself because I'm like, I know I wanted to get something else. But again, my mind was so full that I was so distracted I couldn't even remember. So I got the bottle of water. I walked outside, I sat on a bench, and I'm talking to myself out loud, but I was more talking to whoever was with me because I was like, what did I want to get? I know I wanted to get something very specific, and I don't know what it was. And this is my mom's sense of humor. All of a sudden, I took a drink of the water, and water rushed out of my nostrils. And so all I could do was laugh, and I was like, "Thank you, mom. I wanted tissues. Now I remember
Yeah.
I wanted tissues." So, thankfully,
Yeah.
I found tissues in my purse, and I walked back in the store, and I got the tissues. So I'm
That's
super
such
grateful because it can be silly, it can be stunning, it can throw me off guard, like, I don't expect it whatsoever, and then it can give me those moments of, "Did that really just happen?" Like, that's incredible that that can happen.
yeah. Absolutely. And I think you make a very relevant point. So often we are taught, whether through our parents, our family, our culture, or religion, that death is the end. There's nothing else, and it's just, they're gone. But your examples really highlight how much their presence can continue to go on. And I value that so much. Thank you for sharing that with our listeners because it's something that is such a valuable gift. It's just up to us to start paying attention, to start listening, to start really honoring our loved ones. And I know many people out there already do that, but for those who are on the precipice, who've always been told, oh, no, 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 that can't be,
Mhm.
I hope stories like this encourage people to take that leap of faith and to go, hey, maybe there actually is something else, and this is something that I can tune into. So thank you. Thank you so much, Kimberly.
Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure. Kimberly, we're almost at the finish, but I was wondering, is there something that you would like to share with our guests in terms of, do you have something where that they can get in touch with you in case people want to work with you? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do and how our guests might like to connect with you?
Yes, thank you. So folks can find me on Facebook, Kimberly Henry, and then on Instagram, the real Kimberly.Henry. And I would love if you're open to it, Dagmar, to offer a free ebook that if they are interested, they can reach out to me on either of the socials and send me a message. And it is the 5 ways to recover from your own personal trauma. And this is for someone who, like you were just saying, maybe someone who is a little hesitant to believe that they could connect with the other side. This is for someone who is hesitant to, or they're just getting started with looking at their own trauma and healing from those aspects of like their shadow selves, their past selves, and healing that aspect of them past selves to who they're becoming. And so this book gives you some free tips on how to get started. What's the best ways to just get started so that you give yourself permission to start healing from your trauma. And then I also work with people ontological coaching. So this is a different way of looking at your life and your situations and your circumstances to where we focus on your way of being to work through these traumas and to work through your circumstances and to really work through to who you're becoming so you're more focused on your ways of being rather than all this other gook that's sitting there in your life, if that makes sense.
It does. Well, thank you so much. And I really do hope that some of you listening to this particular podcast find something there that can really help you. Do download Kimberly's ebook. I know it will be of great value to you. Kimberly, thank you so much for coming on to the show. Are there any last thoughts that you would like to share with us?
No, I appreciate you having me on. I was super excited when I was connecting with you because I was like, wow, I have so many to share. And I feel fortunate that I have so many to share.
Well, thank you very much for sharing. And I know that they will help someone out there who can really connect with those stories to just take that step into a new way of being. Thank you again so much. In the meantime, if you found this episode valuable, please share information about the show with 3 people who you believe would find it beneficial. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a 5-star review on the platform where you're listening. Until the next episode, blessings, and may your life be filled with hope and inspiration. Hello and welcome, everybody, to today's episode of the Angelic Footprints podcast show. I have a very special guest with me. Her name is Orora Medway-Smith. And let me tell you a little bit about her. She is the Practical Mystic, an internationally renowned, divinely guided channel for the Ascended Masters and Angelic Collectives. Angela is a master healer, teacher and channel of multiple modalities, clairvoyant and author, oracle deck creatrix, retreat leader, mentor, and life and soul alignment coach. Holistic healing is her passion. Angela is waking the world up to the potential and power of energy healing through her 9, let me say that again, 9 #1 Amazon international best-selling books, channeled books from the Ascended Master and Angelic Collectives, together with the channeled Lemurian and Atlantean healing frequencies, which she teaches as accredited healing modalities on retreats worldwide. Angela, it's a pleasure to have you here. Please welcome and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks so much, Dagmar. I'm absolutely delighted to be here. So where do I begin? I was awakened 40 years ago and began as an energy healer and clairvoyant. And my path has taken me to so many places over so many years. I started festivals and fairs. I've started healing evenings and clinics back in Wales. I live in London now. My work these days is teaching and leading retreats. I've literally just come back from Costa Rica, where I've been really privileged to facilitate at a retreat, and curating books for the Ascended Master and Archangelic collectives. It's a way to get the information out that they want to be heard by people. The books are the idea of my guide, the Ascended Master Saint Germain. And basically, I get told what to do, and authors are sent to me who are meant to be in the book. And through these books, we send a tsunami of healing energy around the planet and empower people to take control of their lives with energy healing and with developing their intuition and with learning about different specific frequencies that the masters want them to know about. But I also do one-to-one work. I work with people with life and soul alignment coaching, and I mentor people. I used to teach a 22-week intuitive development course that I actually taught in Australia for the first time in 1990. These days, I tend to teach it as bespoke mentoring with that course and everything else I've learned in the 30-odd years since then.
Angela, that's absolutely amazing. It sounds like they've got you very busy doing their work. And you mentioned the word empowering people. It's my word as well. I very much believe in empowering people to really fulfill their potential. So I love that alignment between us. You had an angelic experience. Actually, you've told me you've had quite a few. Would you like to share a little bit about one or two of those, please?
Yes, hundreds of experiences. But the first one that actually saved my life was back in the early 80s. I lived in central London and I had phoned my mum to say I was on my way to Harrods, the big department store in Knightsbridge, to buy Christmas cards. And I got on the underground, and halfway there, I had this little sort of poke on my shoulder, get off the train now. So I got off the train in Covent Garden. I was looking for a shop, and there was the same shop in Covent Garden that there was in Knightsbridge. It was Laura Ashley. I was looking for a Christmas frock. And I got off at Covent Garden and went to Laura Ashley. There was nothing there. Sort of 20 minutes later, got back on the underground. And when I got to, well, it was Hyde Park Corner, everybody was kicked off the train because a bomb had exploded at Harrods. Had I not got off the train, I would have been in that explosion. It killed 92 people. My angels, my guides, saved my life that day. So that was a biggie.
Mm.
I've had angels visit my healing practice for many, many years. And these enormous beings turning up in the middle of healing practices is just the most amazing thing. So angels, in my experience, because everybody's experience is different, so angels in my experience will appear to you in a form that you will understand. So I get them sort of 8 foot tall and and in these blazing colours, just incredible. But for the last, I think it's been happening for about 6 years now, I've been working in trance with the angels and ascended masters, and I've channeled books for them, and they regularly appear in my workshops and classes with messages for people, specific messages for those who are present at the time, you know.
Absolutely love it. And the way you describe angels is exactly the way I see them as well. You know, we are talking 8 foot, 9 foot beings, absolutely huge. That might sound quite formidable. I actually feel their presence as a very gentle presence, as a very healing presence. And I think it also depends on which angel is coming through at that time, how forceful they
Yeah.
can be in terms of the messages that they give. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. And I absolutely agree with you about angels often do turn up in a form that we can recognize or that we can work with or identify. And I think that makes it easier for then us to accept any messages that they bring through to us. Angela, I'd love to hear from you. How would you say that these experiences, specifically, you know, angelic experiences, have influenced your life?
Wow. It's changed my life completely. I don't do traditional work anymore. I've been doing this work and focused on awakening people to their divine potential for over a decade now. The angelic experiences have basically pushed me onto my soul's path. Sometimes a big kick at the backside as well, when I'm not doing as I'm told or not doing as I'm guided.
Well, we do get guided, don't we? And then when we don't listen, we do get that second push up the backside, don't we?
Yeah, yeah. I've stopped arguing these days. I now negotiate on timelines because sometimes the instructions I get are quite big projects. So I tend to say, well, actually, I'm human. I can't fit everything in here now. How about this? So we move along. I negotiate.
I love that. Well, it's got to be a win-win all around, doesn't it? I mean, we are still living a human experience, and that does have some limitations.
Yes, yes, indeed.
Well, thank you, Angela. I think it's absolutely wonderful. I'm prompted to ask you, is there a specific message that you would like to share with anyone listening to the show today?
Yes, actually, the Archangel Haniel is the angel of unconditional love. And as soon as you said that, I had a voice in my ear saying that your listeners need to know that they are loved unconditionally, that all is love, and they're never alone. Absolutely never alone.
Thank you. Thank you, Angela. I think you and I know that, but you know, when we go through challenges in our human existence, and that they can be big challenges, little challenges, and sometimes everything snowballs all together, we probably forget that message. And it's another reason why I do the podcast to help people remember that there is that presence, that love on the other side from those who do care for us and who do watch over us. Thank you for that beautiful message. Angela, would you like to share with our listeners an offer or something that you would like to share with our listeners that they can use to help them on the next step of their journey?
So the channel books that I've been the channel for contain practices and meditations to help you actually connect with the angels, to help you connect with the ascended masters and the divine rays and sacred flames that they patronize. And you can actually sit within the energy of these sacred flames and feel them working through you for all sorts of different reasons, whether that's unconditional love, whether it's connecting to the green flame and the Archangel Uriel to help you draw energy up from Mother Earth and, you know, reciprocating by sending it back to Mother Earth. So the Book of Many Colours and the Book of Many Flames are really just really easy tools for empowering that anybody can pick up. But I also give away meditations every month on to people who subscribe to my newsletters. If they'd like to hop over to my website, which is cariadspiritual.com. Cariad's a Welsh word that means love. It's how I approach my work. It's how I approach my life. So if they sign up for my newsletter, then they'll receive meditations. Every month I give something away. One of the angelic or ascended master meditations goes out to all of my subscribers because we need that kind of support, you know?
We do. We do. And thank you for making our listeners aware of that avenue where they can get some help and where they can maybe just dip their feet into the water a little bit of these spiritual experiences and help them then take that gentle step to the next stage, whatever that may be for them. So thank you. Really appreciate that. How can people get in touch with you, please, Angela?
So you can find me on all of the different social media platforms. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn. I don't go on TikTok very often, but I do have a channel on there. You'll find me as Angela Orora, the Practical Mystic. And my website is called Cariad, C-A-R-I-A-D, Spiritual. And my email is cariadspiritual@gmail.com.
I love it. Nice and simple and very similar across the board. So thank you, Angela. For all our listeners, I really do hope that you get in touch with Angela, maybe subscribe to her newsletter and listen to some of her meditations to give you that sense of peace and calm and to help you in your lives. Any final thoughts that you would like to share, Angela?
We are all here on a journey. We are all sparks of the divine, having a physical experience. And I just want you to know that you are exactly where you need to be at this moment in time.
That is so beautiful. So beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Angela. It's been such a pleasure to have you on the show. I do really appreciate your time and your energy in coming here today. For all our listeners, if you found this episode valuable, please share information about the show with 3 people who you believe would find it beneficial. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a 5-star review on the platform where you are listening. Until the next episode, blessings, and may your life be filled with hope and inspiration. Hello and welcome everybody to today's episode of the Angelic Footprints podcast. You know, when I started the podcast, I had certain things in mind about what I was going to include as content. And it wasn't until I was speaking with one of my daughter's friends, she said to me, "Have you thought about doing an episode on what specific angels do?" And it was then that I came to realize, oh, wow, I definitely need to include this. And that got me thinking. Now, I cannot hope to tell you all about every single angel. That would be nigh on impossible, as there are thousands upon thousands of angels. What I will do is start with the named angels that are in various texts, whether it is in the Bible, the Book of Enoch, or other historical writings. As always, I have used a number of different sources for this content, and we will be doing quite a number of episodes on this topic. Now, where it's relevant, I will mention specific websites so that I can attribute the content for the show. One thing to bear in mind, angels are androgynous. So even though they might be cited as him or her, they're not actually male or female. As human beings, we often like to categorize them as such, and that may be based on how they are seen quite often to us. But remember, angels are beings that aren't human. Today we are going to take a closer look at archangels Gabriel, Raguel, and Ariel. Let's begin with Archangel Gabriel. Did you know that Gabriel isn't actually called an archangel in the Bible? According to overviewbible.com, they tell me that apparently 12,000 people, could be more, search for Archangel Gabriel every month on Google. And do you know what? I did exactly the same. That's pretty interesting because in the Protestant Bible, Gabriel is never actually called an archangel. The only angel in the Bible that is specifically given that title is Michael, and that's at Jude 9. Why then do we think that Gabriel is an archangel? Well, apparently, in the book of Enoch, it was written, and that is where this has had a huge impact on Gabriel's religious context. It was also so influential that the biblical book of Jude even quotes this particular paragraph, and it's in Jude 14 to 15. Now, the fact is, the Bible talks about many angels. Sometimes people see thousands or even tens of thousands all at once. But out of all those angels, only two are named in the Protestant Bible, Gabriel and Michael. Apparently, in the Catholic and Orthodox Church, there is mention of another angel, Raphael, who appears in a book called Tobit. Again, though, Tobit isn't included in the Protestant Bible, which is why Raphael isn't listed there. Let's take a look at Gabriel's role in Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. Gabriel is recognized as an important figure in all of those religions, playing a key role in several major events. According to learnreligions.com, in Islam, the Prophet Muhammad said that Gabriel appeared to him and dictated the entire Quran. Many Muslims also believe that Gabriel gave the Prophet Abraham a sacred stone, known as the Black Stone of Kaaba. Today, Muslim pilgrims traveling to Mecca kiss this stone as part of their religious journey. Gabriel is also known as a messenger of important births. Muslims, Jews, and Christians all believe that Gabriel announced the upcoming births of three significant figures, those being Isaac, John the Baptist, and Jesus Christ. In Jewish tradition, Gabriel is thought to stand at God's left side near his throne in heaven. Some Jewish teachings describe Gabriel as carrying out God's judgment, such as when he was sent to destroy the sinful cities of Sodom and Gomorrah with fire. In Christianity, Gabriel is most often remembered for delivering the news to the Virgin Mary that she would give birth to Jesus Christ. This is recorded in Luke number 1 at 30 to 31. According to Catholic.org, Gabriel appears in both the Old and New Testaments of the Bible. In the Old Testament, he visits the prophet Daniel to help him understand his visions. Daniel describes Gabriel as someone who looked like a man. During their first encounter, Gabriel speaks to Daniel while he is asleep, and the experience leaves Daniel so overwhelmed that he becomes exhausted and sick for days. Later, Gabriel returns to provide Daniel with more insight, answering one of his prayers. In the New Testament, Gabriel is introduced as an angel of the Lord. He first appears to Zacharias, the father of John the Baptist, telling him that he and his wife Elizabeth will have a son and they should name him John. Gabriel, in a lot of ways, is recognized as a symbol of hope and divine revelation. And he's more than just a messenger offering spiritual guidance. In religious texts, his appearances often mark the beginning of significant new chapters, delivering messages that shape history and faith. His role goes beyond any single religion, emphasizing the universal nature of divine communication and intervention. According to ConnollyCove.com, in art and culture, Gabriel is frequently depicted holding a trumpet or lilies, symbols of his role as God's messenger. As one of the most recognized angels, he serves as a bridge between heaven and earth, guiding believers and reminding them of the divine presence in their lives. That takes me now onto Archangel Raguel. According to wikipedia.org, Archangel Raguel is known as the angel of justice, fairness, and harmony. His name means God shall pasture, which is connected to the Hebrew word for shepherd. Raguel is primarily associated with Judaic traditions and is almost always described as the archangel of justice, vengeance, and redemption. In the book of Enoch, he is listed as one of the 7 angels whose role is to watch over creation. Much like a cosmic sheriff, Raguel's duty has always been to maintain order, ensuring that fallen angels and demons do not exceed their limits. He is known for carrying out divine judgment, destroying wicked spirits, and casting fallen angels into hell, referred to as Gehenna in the Hebrew Old Testament and Tartarus in the Greek New Testament. According to the Christian website.com, as one of the 7 archangels, Raguel is known as the angel of harmony. His name means friend of God, and he plays an essential role in overseeing relationships, resolving conflicts, and promoting justice and fairness. Raguel is believed to nurture unity and affection in all types of relationships, whether they're friendships, family connections, marriages, or even professional partnerships. When tensions arise, he works to repair broken bonds, restoring peace through kindness, compassion, and understanding. Raguel encourages open and respectful communication, helping to heal divisions and strengthen relationships. Beyond this, Raguel also helps us develop a healthy relationship with ourselves and maintains harmony between angels and humans. His influence is reflected in the Bible, where in Ephesians 4:3, he encourages believers to make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. As you can see, there are slightly different interpretations of who Raguel is and what he does. On the website learnreligions.com, he is recognized as a leader within the angelic order known as the Principalities. These angels are known for helping people create structure and order in their lives, often by inspiring them to develop spiritual habits that strengthen their connection to the divine. These practices may include prayer, meditation, reading sacred texts, attending worship services, spending time in nature, and serving others in need. As a principality angel, Raguel also provides guidance to those in leadership roles, from government officials to parents and workplace team leaders. He offers wisdom to help them organize their responsibilities effectively and lead with fairness and integrity. So if you're in a position of influence, whether it's at home, at work, or maybe even within your community, Raguel may be able to send you insights and fresh ideas to support that leadership journey. The principalities help people break free from limitations offering wisdom and inspiration to trust in the divine and step into a greater sense of purpose. Doreen Virtue writes in her book Archangels 101, Archangel Raguel brings harmony to all relationships, including those of friendship, romance, family, and business. Sometimes he'll instantly heal the relationship, and other times he'll send intuitive guidance to you. You'll recognize this guidance as repetitive gut feelings, thoughts, visions, or signs that lead you to take healthful action steps in your relationships. If you get help resolving conflicts in your relationships with other people, especially if you've prayed for that help, Raguel is one of the angels whom God may assign to provide that help to you. In flowingwithangels.com, Archangel Raguel radiates a sense of safety and calm, bringing a peaceful presence to those who seek his guidance. His aura is often described as soft blue, symbolizing tranquility and open communication. Snow and ice are also commonly associated with Raguel, representing his ability to cool down those heated arguments and tense situations, restoring harmony and understanding. He's also connected to the throat chakra, helping to balance and strengthen our ability to communicate clearly, honestly, and with kindness. That brings me to the final angel that we are going to talk about today, the Archangel Ariel, sometimes also known as only the angel Ariel, but more on that later. Archangel Ariel is known as the guardian of nature and abundance. And on the website learnreligions.com, we are told that the name Ariel comes from Hebrew and means altar or lion of God. Archangel Ariel is often seen as the angel of nature, watching over the well-being of animals, plants, and the nature elements, such as water, wind, and fire. She ensures that all living things are protected and that ecosystems remain in balance and harmony. Because of this, Ariel is sometimes called the guardian of Earth and is associated with environmental protection and sustainability. Beyond nature, Ariel is also known as the provider of abundance. She helps guide people toward prosperity in different areas of life, whether it's financial stability, emotional fulfillment, or spiritual growth. Those seeking to attract abundance often call on her for support. Ariel also serves as a bridge to the mystical realms of nature, because what that means is, if she's asked, she can help people connect with fairies and other elemental spirits, deepening their bond with the natural world. According to flowingwithangels.com, Archangel Ariel helps us discover, or perhaps rather remember, our true life purpose and higher calling by unlocking hidden wisdom from within our subconscious mind. Her energy provides the courage and confidence to set intentions, step beyond our comfort zones, and embrace our full potential. She supports us in fulfilling our life's mission while ensuring we have everything we need in the physical world. In artistic representations, Ariel is often shown holding a globe to symbolize her connection to the earth, or surrounded by natural elements like water, fire, and rocks. She is frequently depicted in pale pink or rainbow colors, reflecting her nurturing and expansive energy. Symbols linked to Ariel include lions, the moon, lilies, wild animals, and flowers, all of which represent her deep connection to nature and her role in balancing the heart chakra. According to medieval scholars like St. Thomas Aquinas, Angels are arranged into groups known as choirs, including seraphim, cherubim, and others. Ariel is believed to be a part of, if not the leader of, the choir known as the Virtues. These angels inspire humanity to create great works of art, make scientific breakthroughs, and experience divine miracles in their lives. Now, I started talking about Ariel as either an angel or an archangel. And what is interesting is that Ariel's title as an archangel does not come from traditional religious scriptures, but has developed over time through mystical traditions, apocryphal texts, and modern spiritual beliefs. According to ahigherview.com, in writings such as the Hierarchy of Blessed Angels, Ariel is explicitly named among the archangels. Over the centuries, her status has been reinforced by spiritual and occult traditions, which attribute to her the roles of ruler of the waters and spirit of air, responsibilities often associated with archangels. While her designation as an archangel may not be universally recognized in formal religious doctrine, her influence in spiritual practices continues to grow, symbolizing both divine guidance and the world's sacred balance. There you have it, information on archangels Gabriel, Raguel, and Ariel. As you can hear throughout this episode, not all of the information is congruent with everything else, as various sources cite different information on the different angels. But I hope that you've been able to see that there are many similarities in the duties and tasks assigned to the different angels. That takes us to the end of today's show. In the meantime, if you found this episode valuable, please share information about the show with 3 people who you believe would find it beneficial. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a 5-star review on the platform where you're listening. You yourself might find yourself at a crossroad in your life, and if you are looking for guidance and inspiration, I'd love to help you find your path with a spiritual angel reading. Contact me on info@dagmarbryant.com for more information and to make a booking. Until the next episode, blessings, and may your life be filled with hope and inspiration. Hello and welcome everybody to today's episode of Angelic Footprints. We have a special guest with us today. Her name is Sam Ritchie, and she is a certified angel guide, trained with and featured on Kyle Gray's website. She specializes in space clearing in person and from floor plans. Now, what's interesting is space clearing is the removal of negative energies and entities from a building. She reads oracle cards, helping to give people clarity and confidence, as well as offering past life regressions. She holds space for 2 spiritual circles a week and also monthly day retreats with themes such as creating vision boards, creating a spiritual practice, and gratitude. She has studied and worked on her abilities over the last 25 years to the point that she is now able to space clear using just a floor plan and an address. And that absolutely sounds amazing. It can turn negative and sometimes harmful energy into positive and abundant energy. And this gives the occupants a sense of well-being, calm, and clarity. It also helps businesses to grow and increases the speed at which properties sell plus many other benefits. And her aim is to help people live a happy, connected, and guided life. Sam, that is such a beautiful intro. So, welcome. Tell me a little bit about yourself, please.
Okay, so originally I'm from the UK, as you can probably tell, but now I live in Spain and have done for the last 17 years. And I was an estate agent in the UK, in London primarily, and found that I could sell properties that no one else could. And I didn't know why. It's only looking back that I know why. And that's because I was space clearing. I was clearing the energy just by turning up. What happened was I left a state agency, had a family, and we moved into a house. And I knew there was no entities there because as a child, I'd always been able to see things that other people couldn't see. So I was always seeing the history of buildings. I was always seeing historic events and spirits on the side of the road, which can be a bit freaky when you're driving along and someone jumps out in front of you.
Absolutely.
So I'd always been able to see it. And I thought, to be fair, I thought everyone could until I was about 21. And then someone said to me, not everyone sees what you see. You probably should be a little bit careful who you say these things to. And then I started to shut it down like we do. We're being criticized. We need to shut this down. Then I stopped being an estate agent and we moved into a new house. And I knew there was no entities there. But the feeling of the property was heavy. It was really dark feeling. And I happened to mention to a spiritual friend of mine about it. And she said, "Oh, you want a space clear?" And this was before Google was a thing. Right. So I was like, I don't know what space clearing is. Tell me what it is. And so she said, well, basically, you go around, you clap, you use incense, and you have the intention that all the negative energy is going to leave. And so I set about space clearing my house. And what happened was I got all the history of the house. Well, not all of it, but a large amount of history from the house, which was very dark, which would explain the feelings I was having. And when I excitedly told her all the things I saw, she went, "You do know that most people, when they space clear, don't see a thing. They just space clear and feel the energy change, and that's it." Well, I didn't know what space clearing was. So obviously I just assumed everyone would get all this information.
Yeah, so amazing.
Yeah. So roll on. Since that point, I've always space cleared the houses we've lived in, and we've lived in a lot. And I've space cleared for friends and family. And if someone mentioned that they had a bad smell that would come and go or things moving, then I would go and space clear their properties. Roll on to 2020, and I was working in a kitchen in a local restaurant, and obviously everything shut down. And suddenly I had time on my hands. So that's when I studied with Kyle Gray, and I started giving oracle card readings online for free. And I did about 500 of them. And then people started wanting to give me money. And I was like, hang on a minute, I could feed my family doing what I love. So I started doing it for a business. And I put on my website about space clearing, thinking it would be a really small part of what I do because I live in rural Spain. You've either got to have a major problem or spiritually minded to come to me, and I've got to be able to travel to you. What happened next was quite amazing because a friend of mine who I'd space cleared their holiday home here in Spain contacted me and said, "Sam, I have this real big problem. I inherited a property from my grandparents. There's tenants in it. It needs essential maintenance work and the tenants won't let me in. Can you space clear it from a plan and an address?" And I said, honestly, I have no clue whether I can or not. I said, but I'll give it a go.
Well, it sounds like an opportunity, doesn't it?
Well, you don't know unless you try, do you? So I set about copying the plan that she gave me. And as I did that, all this information kept dropping in, including the names of her grandparents. And I was like, okay, clearly I can do this then. But what happened next was just astonishing because within 24 hours, and it wasn't even 24 hours, she called me to tell me that the tenants had allowed her in and that the work was scheduled to be done. I was like, okay, this works then.
What a fabulous outcome.
Yeah. And that was just the start, because now I
Oh,
work with a number of estate agents and properties that haven't been able to sell, not because there is other reasons why properties don't sell. Obviously, if they're overpriced
mm,
or have serious issues, then they don't sell. But if it's an energetic problem, they sell really quickly and normally within about 48 hours. And business thriving, people's sleep problems disappearing, all sorts of amazing stuff just from space clearing from a floor plan.
oh, Sam, your story sounds absolutely amazing. And I really hope our listeners who resonate with this, that they get in touch with you to help with that problem, because your story is just inspiring. And, what started out as something that you thought might help someone has become a fabulous business opportunity. So well done, you. Let's talk for a moment about angelic experiences. Are you able to share with our listeners one or two experiences that are very significant for you?
Yeah. So, as I said before, I've always been able to see things that other people haven't been able to see. But to be fair, I was terrified at the thought of seeing an angel. I thought they were going to be 20 foot tall and this image that was just going to tower over me and engulf me. And I was terrified. And that all changed when my mum died. And as she left her body, I was there present when she died. As she left her body, this most beautiful light, and it was definitely an angel, there's no doubt. It's very difficult to describe how it was, but the energy was so loving, and it
Mm,
scooped my mum's soul up, and they just sort of both disappeared, and it was the most beautiful thing that I have ever experienced. And after that, it was like, okay, so I don't really need to be afraid of seeing angels. And then obviously that was before I started working with Kyle Gray and doing his courses. Since that point, whenever I'm space clearing and things get a bit dark or difficult, I see the angels in almost like, the cutouts we used to do as kids with paper chains of angels.
yes,
I
yes.
see they appear to me like that all around me, but bright, really the brightest light you can imagine. And it's just beautiful. And it's such a privilege to be able to work with the angels with the work I do, because it's them doing the work, really. It's not me. They just need a human to do the human bit. And so it's a privilege to be a channel for them.
It is. It is. And I love your story. And, you reminded me of, I had a very special cat, and we had to let him go because he was very sick, and my daughters were there. We're at the vet. And, you talk about seeing that light of when they pass. And even before the vet put him down, I saw his spirit leave his body. And I saw it, and it was just such a sense of peace and calm. It was so beautiful. And I mean, obviously, my daughters and I, we were all in tears because, he left us. But seeing that experience, I know exactly what you're talking about and how special that is. And that's one of the reasons, I'm doing this podcast, because your story like that, I hope that inspires people to really draw this energy in and to feel at peace with it, and to give them aspirations and inspiration to move their lives forward, just like you have done.
Yeah, I hope so too. And, our angels are always with us, even if we can't see them, feel them, or even believe they're there. They are always with us. We don't need to know their names necessarily. We can just call them in. Thank you, angels, for showing us a sign, and a feather return up in a random place. Or I have an apartment, and one of the weirdest things, but the most amazing, is that one day I was going there, my washing machine used to live out there, and I was walking up the steps, and suddenly there was a boot from a Monopoly board on the
Yes,
step.
yes.
Well, the Monopoly board lives behind me in the unit, and it's locked, and no one had played with it for months. So there's no reason why it would have been outside. And it's just like, Thank you for the sign that I'm on the right track.
Yeah, you just reminded me of something that only happened to me this week. I had a problem with my car and I backed it out of the garage and parked it on the driveway because I was going to go to the shop at lunchtime. And then all of a sudden, it's just would not start. And I'm thinking about it, and these things happen for a reason. It did end up having a dead battery because the battery was just gone. But I said to Spirit, my angels, I said, look, thank you very much for having that happen in my driveway so that I'm not out and about somewhere, that I'm on my own, worried about how to get home and all that. And sure enough, I'm going for a walk a little bit later, and this white feather literally drops down on me. It's like, you heard me. Thank you so much. We heard you. It's just, I love that. So thank you for sharing that story. In terms of angels, and you mentioned a few experiences, how would you say that overall that's influenced your life?
Oh, they've changed my life totally. Connecting with them has given me the courage to do the work I'm meant to be doing. And it has led me down a path that all those years ago when I was an estate agent, I never thought I would be doing this work. They've also led me to the path of writing my first book, which comes out on Wednesday.
Yay!
When I was at junior school, I couldn't read. No one had noticed it. Funnily enough, thinking back now, I would read the pictures, which is like reading oracle cards, right?
It is.
But no one had noticed that that's what I was doing. It was only when the books didn't have pictures anymore that I was really a bit stuffed, And so to go from someone who really struggled at school, not only because I was different, because I saw things that other people couldn't see, but I really was struggling with the physical reading and writing, to write a book, they've really changed my life.
It's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. And for all our listeners, please listen to Sam's story again if you missed any of that, because these spiritual experiences absolutely can change your life. And the purpose of this show is to help really open your eyes to this other world that in many ways, we're so focused on the physical and we forget that there's a spiritual side to ourselves. So Sam, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. In terms of yourself, do you have something that you would like to share with our listeners, either, your platform or any specials?
Yeah, I'd like to share my book, which is called Echoes Within Walls. It gives you the basics of how to space clear yourself. It also gives you some of the stories that I've picked up while space clearing, some of the amazing spirits that I've come across, both good and bad, and the histories of the properties. Now I'm based in Spain, so there's a lot of dark history around the area where I live. And it often comes up when I'm space clearing property, which is intriguing. I've had the privilege of space clearing a hotel with an escape tunnel in it and a palace. There's some
Wow.
amazing stuff.
Wow. Well, I'm the same as you. I've come from Australia to the UK, so moved countries. So that's what I'm saying. I'm the same as you. And it never fails to amaze me the difference in history that
Yeah.
we get to experience coming to a land that has been civilized for a long time and had civilizations and what comes with being part of a civilization. Sam, thank you. Thank you so much. Would you be kind enough to tell our listeners how people can get in touch with you, whether it's for a space clearing, whether it's for a reading or anything else?
Yeah, you can get hold of me via my website, which is samangelguide.com. There's also free meditations on there. The most important, if you want to try space clearing for yourself, is the angelic protection meditation. Because before you start space clearing for yourself, protect your energy. That is the most important thing. And that's totally free under blogs on my website. You can also find me on Facebook, again, Sam Angel Guide, Instagram, Sam Angel Guide. I'm just about to set up Substack, but I haven't got my head around that yet. Everything is under Sam Angel Guide.
I love it. Nice and simple. So Sam Angel Guide for all of our listeners who would like to get in touch with Sam. Sam, thank you so much for being here today. I loved your stories, and I know that there are listeners who are connecting into this show who will absolutely go, I can so relate to that. So thank you. And I do hope that you please get in touch with Sam if you have any questions at all about her story, about space clearing, or if you want some help with some angel cards. In the meantime, if you found this episode valuable, please share information about the show with 3 people who you believe would find it beneficial. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a 5-star review on the platform where you're listening. Until the next episode, blessings, and may your life be filled with hope and inspiration. Hello and welcome everybody to the Angelic Footprints podcast show. Today I have a very special guest with me, and her name is Hayley. Hayley is an author and Amish taxi driver living in rural Missouri with her husband and children, surrounded by her Amish friends. Hayley's belief in angels was shaped by her Mormon upbringing. She sees them as heavenly messengers, guiding, protecting, and ministering to those on earth. As a homeschooling mother of 6, she's often called on their help and felt their presence in her life. She believes we can pray for angelic assistance and strive to be earthly angels for those in need. In her free time, Hayley enjoys family, crocheting, foraging, writing, and exploring the outdoors. I don't know about you, but I'm really excited to hear Hayley's story. Hayley, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I think you did a great job. I will just add with the Amish, I've always been drawn to them, and it's probably because I prefer simplicity over complexity, family over friends, hard work over relaxation, and in many instances, the old-fashioned ways of doing things over the modern ways. And I was raised Mormon, but I was also raised part Lutheran, and I've always been very sensitive to the things of the Spirit and to God, and I've always sought to do His will.
Wonderful. Thank you. Now, we were talking a little bit off air, and you've told me that you've had many angelic experiences. Would you like to share one or two with our listeners, please?
We'll start with one. And before I go into that, I just want to give a little bit of background into what led up to the profound angelic experience for me. So being raised Mormon, we're very traditional, very high demand religion, traditional family. And there was a saying that one of our church leaders had always said, and it was drilled into my head when I was growing up. And the saying is, no other success can compensate for failure in the home. And when I was born into a Lutheran Catholic family, and my mom left when I was 2. And I didn't see her growing up. She left me and my dad. And then my dad remarried, and I was raised by my stepmom, who's my mother. But she was unhealthy. She had a lot of struggles. So she wasn't a very hands-on mother. And my dad was working 2 jobs so he could have a really nice retirement, which he does have. So I kind of was left to raise myself. And then I found myself in Indiana, 2,000 miles from my family. I had my first child. And I was looking at her and wondering, how in the world am I going to raise this girl to be a healthy, happy, well-adjusted human being? I had my list of values that I wanted her to have and skills I wanted her to have. And I had no idea how I was going to do that. I knew that I wanted to be different than my family was raising me. I knew I wanted to stay at home, and I knew I wanted to be there for my children whenever they needed me, if that makes sense. Maybe I was overdoing it, but I really wanted to. And so I started reading all these books on child rearing, and I started reading these books about education, right? Because that's a big part of our life. We have to learn certain things. And I just delved into that. And after much prayerful consideration, not feeling at all able to do it, I decided to homeschool my children.
Right.
And just be very intentional, stay at home. We were in poverty. My husband he's my ex-husband now, but he really, really, really struggled to provide for us. And we had a large family. We had 6 children, right? So that made things worse and a lot harder. And sometimes Mormons can be very judgmental. And because of my alternative way of child rearing, including homeschooling, home birthing, teaching my children to do chores, feeding them healthy food, I had my own way of raising my kids. And I felt like I was being guided in this. There was opposition. So we were at church one Sunday, my husband and I, and the bishop, the leader of our church, came in and he said, there's been talk from people in church. They're concerned with how you're raising your children. They're concerned about possible neglect. So if you don't change things, somebody's going to call Child Protective Services on you. And you know what that is? Because I've listened to you on one of your podcasts twice, that woman whose father murdered her mother, and Child
Yeah.
Protective Services did not get involved in that situation. And
Yeah.
amazing angelic encounters from her mother. That resonated with me on so many levels, because at least where I was raising my children at the time in Portland, Oregon, Child Protective Services had a reputation for interfering where they shouldn't and for ignoring cases like your previous guests, where they really do need assistance from the state and from outside sources. So in my case, they were kind of going like the opposite, right? We didn't need help. We just were raising our children in a different manner. We just wanted to be left alone. Everything was okay, but that wasn't the case. Anyway, so this is kind of what led up to the angelic experience. And it was our worst nightmare. In our homeschool groups, like we belonged to a co-op. So we would go Tuesdays and Thursdays and we would have school where we would have classes, and I taught a class and my friends taught classes and our children intermixed, and we did field trips, right? We did all these things. We were very attentive and active with our children and knew how we wanted to raise them and the values we wanted to instill in them. Anyway, so having Child Protective Services come was literally my worst nightmare at that time. My husband worked in Seattle. We were in Portland. He worked in Seattle. So he was only home 4 days a month. And that left me at the time with 5 young children. Okay. My oldest was 10 and my youngest was 1. I felt overwhelmed because I didn't have family support. My husband was out of town. I was homeschooling. Like, I was doing all these things. I was very thin. I was still overcoming postpartum depression. Anyway, and my brother actually lived with me, and he would help me take the children swimming every Tuesday night. They had family swim at the local pool because I wanted my children to learn to swim, right? And to get out of the house. So I remember we were at the swimming pool and I had my son, my youngest son, who's 15 now, and a very strong, healthy boy. I was playing with him in the water. He was jumping into my arms and I'd put him back up on the edge of the pool and he'd jump back into my arms. And we were having a lot of fun. But this, I don't know how you want to say it, but in our language, in Mormon language, we say impression or feeling hit me like a ton of bricks. And that feeling told me, enjoy the time that you have with your children. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Of course I do that, right? But that was what we call a premonition. Yeah. And then literally the next day, I woke up and I opened the front door just to get some fresh air. Kids were still asleep. And this business card just blows into the living room on the floor. And I pick it up and I turn it over. And the card said Child Protective Services. And I won't say his name. Anyway, I remember his name like it was yesterday. And it said, please call me. So God warned me. Didn't give me much warning, but he warned me that was going to happen. So this is what led up to our angelic encounter. I about died. I just crumpled on the ground right there in my living room in a heap, and I wailed uncontrollably because I didn't know what to do. And I was alone with my kids. My husband was in Seattle, right? My parents had their own lives. It was me. Sorry. So I was in communication with a woman. This was before podcast, and she was called the Preparedness Pro. Her name is Kayleen Vale. She still does stuff like that. And I actually needed to talk to her about something. And a miracle was that I mentioned just kind of in passing that because she's very freedom oriented and maybe likes to walk to the beat of her own drum too, just like I do. And I mentioned Child Protective Services, and immediately she told me about this painting done by a woman named Carrie Guthrie, who is also Mormon. And it's a painting called Ministering Angels. And it's the painting of this girl sitting in a chair reading her scriptures. And when I talk about my children, I cry. Anyway, so she's sitting here reading her scriptures on this chair in a library. And there are just very, very tall, very strong angels, male angels that look like, maybe they don't have a gender, I don't know, but very tall, strong angels. And they were holding a sword. Every single one of them were surrounding her. And I saw that picture because I looked it up and I prayed and I knew right then that God's angels, just like those in the picture, were surrounding our home and protecting my family. I'm not saying that everybody from Child Protective Services is out to hurt people. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying that our family did not need them and that I felt I needed protection in this instance and that God's angels were there protecting us.
So what happened with Child Protective Services? Did you get to keep your children?
So I will answer. Yeah, I did. But let me tell you what happened. So as Mormons, we believe is something called the power of the priesthood, and you've probably seen in different churches. And I've been to many different churches, and I've exposed my children to many different religions because I want them to have that background and understanding and be able to choose, what they prefer. But anyway, you've seen the laying on of hands. Well, the Mormons do that too. And a blessing was pronounced upon my head because I needed comfort because I was afraid I was going to lose my 5 children that I had at the time. I was deathly afraid of that. Anyway, and so we believe that God can speak through the priesthood holder and through the blessing. And the words spoken over me were that, things will be okay. You need to study what your options are. And there is an option to handle this situation without, or that you have not figured out yet. So I studied like crazy what my options were. And I really delved into freedom and what our rights are. And typically with CPS, they like you to let them in. And I did not feel right about that. I didn't have anything to hide, but I still didn't feel right about that. And in our country, if you do let somebody in without a warrant, like a law enforcement officer or a child protective worker, then you waive any rights that you would have. Okay, your protections are out the window. So I learned that. So I decided I can't let him in unless he goes and gets a warrant. So I invited him to go get a warrant to prove exigency, to prove that my children are in imminent danger. And he was not able to do that, right? So it was just somebody being concerned for me living a different lifestyle and raising my children in a different way than a lot of people do. But we had a letter writing campaign. I had a friend that was a social worker, a friend that was a teacher. Her husband was a cop. I had all these people that were in government jobs that could vouch for me as a mother. And we did that. Anyway, but it went on for months where CPS would park in front of our house. And I had to have a plan with my children, like we can go out the back. We had to have a plan to protect ourselves. But this whole time I felt calmness and I felt, even though I was kind of freaking out because I wasn't sure how God was going to do this because Child Protective Services does have a lot of power. I ended up keeping the children, but I will tell you, I lost 10 pounds. And I was really not a good mother during that time because I was so catatonic. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. Even though God had, sent his angels to surround our home, I still was a little bit uneasy. Right. Until that was gone. Yeah, it was a really hard time. It's really hard.
Thank you so much for sharing that story, Hayley. And, I think our listeners can tell how hard that was for you to share that. But how can I put this? It's beautiful how you called in for help and you've received help and you had people who supported you, but also the angels who protected you and protected your children as well from an outcome that could have been terrible. I do believe people come into our lives for a reason. That lady that you spoke about who told you about the painting, and, I believe that there's something that you haven't looked at and you finding all that research about your rights. That's very powerful. The right people came in to help you at that particular time. Would you agree?
I agree.
Thank you for sharing. In terms of who that's made you who you are, because we know that our challenges make us and develop us who we are in terms of our own strengths and our abilities. How would you say this has influenced your life? And by all means, if you want to reference other angelic stories as well, how do you feel that that's influenced who you are today?
Well, if I can take a little step back and reference the Bible about angels with swords. In the Bible, that I learned after having that experience. So in Revelations, Jesus is described as having a sword coming out of his mouth, which symbolizes the word of God. And a sword in the context of angels can often represent power and judgment and protection. And the destroying angel would be maybe a reference for that. And then Adam and Eve, there's, an angel or a cherubim placed with a flaming sword. There are just lots of references in the Bible about angels with swords offering protection. And I don't feel worthy of this, right? But I know my children are, that God would protect them and loves them so much. And then how has that influenced my life? It opened the door to teach me about freedom and liberties and really helped me to understand kind of the founding documents of this country, and which we believe are inspired by God as members of the Mormon Church. And so I learned what our liberties are. And that experience was one that really gave me courage. I had always been this little shy violet, right? Don't want to tromp on anybody's feet, don't want to stand up, just go along like a river flows. And that awakened the lion within me and gave me the courage to stand for what I believe in and to really defend my children and to defend others who are in need of defending and in need of standing up for. It also renewed my faith that God hears and answers prayers in the most unexpected ways, both through angels and through earthly angels, which I experienced both.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. It's such an amazing story, your story. And as you said, it's made you stronger and helped you to stand up for what you believe in and what matters for you. So kudos to you. Well done, Hayley. Well done. So, Hayley, we're coming to almost to the end of the show. And again, really appreciate you being here. Do you have anything that you would like to add to what we've already talked about? Any special messages for our listeners?
So you asked how it had influenced my life. One more thing is that the old me before that experience would never have had the courage to start her own business, driving taxi for the Amish, to even talk to the Amish, right? Because they're such an interesting, isolated group of people. And I would have never had the courage to share my stories, to write books. So that has been a huge blessing in my life. And typically at the end of a podcast, I like to leave everybody with an Amish proverb. They have lots of bits of wisdom.
Please share.
So one that I think applies today is trusting God turns problems into opportunities. And another one, where there is life, there is hope. And yes, people can contact me. I'm all over the place. And you would think my husband is a software developer. You'd think I have a website, right? Okay, but I don't. So I'm on Facebook at Hayley Straw 6. I'm on TikTok at the Amish Taxi Driver. I'm on Substack and Pinterest and Instagram, Amish Taxi Driver. And then I've got some books on Amazon. And yes, you guys can absolutely reach out to me.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. Hayley, you just mentioned some books. What are the titles of those books in case any of our listeners might want to avail themselves of reading them?
So I'm writing a series. I've got the first 2 books done, and the series is called Tales of an Amish Taxi Driver, and they're on Amazon.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much. And if any of our listeners want to get in touch with you, please do, and listen to Hayley's wonderful stories of hope and inspiration. Thank you again for being here. It's been such a pleasure to have you on the show. In the meantime, if you, our listeners, found this episode valuable, please share information about the show with 3 people who you believe would find it beneficial. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a 5-star review on the platform where you're listening. Until the next episode, blessings, and may your life be filled with hope and inspiration. Hello and welcome, everybody, to today's episode of the Angelic Footprints podcast. I have a special guest with me today, and his name is Dr. Robb Kelly, PhD, who is a sought-after recovery expert who believes in treating the causes of addiction and not the symptoms. Dr. Kelly has appeared on such shows as The Doctors, Eye Opener, Good Morning Texas, and Ken 5 Morning News. A frequent contributor to radio and print interviews, including The Jim Bohannon Show, Miracles in Recovery, USA Today, and he has participated in McLean Hospital's Harvard Medical School study on the stigma associated with mental illness. He has lectured on addiction and trauma at high-profile universities, national conferences, treatment facilities, public schools, churches, business organizations, and hospitals. Dr. Kelly shares his personal highs and lows as he struggled and overcame crippling alcoholism in the November 2019 release of the book, Daddy, Daddy, Please Stop Drinking. Dr. Robb, it's such a pleasure to have you here. Welcome. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Dagmar. Hey guys, my name's Dr. Robb Kelly. I'm over in San Antonio, Texas. Though, as you can tell by my accent, I'm originally from Manchester in England. Arrived in Texas about 19 years ago. I came over here for 2 weeks for a conference and decided never to go back again. So we created the Robb Kelly Group. We specialize in childhood trauma, depression, PTSD, memory loss, addiction, alcoholism, and anything to do with sight without medication is what we really do. We've got 5 offices around the world. We've got, maybe 6. San Antonio, Dallas, Texas, Manchester, London, Switzerland, and Spain. So we do pretty good. We've helped over 10,000 patients is what I've been through over a 25, 30-year period. And I'm really happy to be there today.
Oh, wonderful, Dr. Robb. Thank you for telling us about that. And I do hope that our listeners will connect with something that you say here today and do get in touch with you. But for now, I want to talk about your angelic experience that you mentioned to me that you had in Manchester. Would you like to tell our listeners about that, please?
So first of all, I've got to say, guys, I wouldn't tell this story for about 20 years because I thought people might think I'm crazy, but I'm homeless. I've lost everything. I've lost my children. I've lost my wife, my houses, my cars, my license to practice. Everything's gone. And I'm sat on the streets homeless for 14 months. 7 suicide attempts, and on 2 occasions it worked. And I died on the streets of Manchester, and he brought me back to life. I hated those paramedics for that. I just didn't want to live. So one morning around 2 or 3 o'clock, and so good being on an English show because you know what I'm talking about. Back end Manchester, they got the offices, got the factories, nobody there. Middle of the night, pouring down with rain. I'm stumbling around because I'm just coming out of another alcoholic stupor. And I dropped down to my hands and knees, and for some unknown reason, I started crying like a baby. That cry that comes from the stomach, the aching stomach. I'm sobbing and sobbing. Now, the interesting thing about this whole deal is I wasn't crying because I'd lost my children or my wife, blah, blah, blah. I was crying because the first time in my life I realized I couldn't stop drinking. I looked up to the sky and I said, if there is a God, because I didn't believe in God because I was molested by my priest, if there's a God up there, I can't do this on my own anymore. About 30 seconds later, a guy walked round the corner. He had a little Bible in his hand. He'd missed his last bus home from a Bible study, and he'd taken a walk on a shortcut that he'd never taken before. So he's been walking an hour, came upon me, told me he was a Christian, recovering alcoholic, took me back to his house. I bathed for the first time in a year, shaved, all that stuff. And I sat down, we had coffee, and we were talking about stuff. And he said, hey, here's the deal. You can stay here for as long as you like, Rob, but you've got to come to these AA meetings with me. I cannot have you drinking in my house. Well, I didn't really want to go, but I went because I could stay there. But while I was there, this is when it all started to change. While I was there, sure enough, the old guys just doing the same old moan stories. But this guy said, my name's John and I'm a recovered alcoholic. And I remember looking at Derek and saying, what did he just say? He said recovered. So now I'm a little angry at this guy because we know we can't recover from that stuff. But he taught amazing. He spoke out the book we have there. He spoke about God. And after the meeting, I went over to him and I said, hey, John, my name's Robb. Will you sponsor me? And he said, no. And then we paused for a second and I was waiting the ground to open up and swallow me. I was so embarrassed. He said, I will be a spiritual advisor for 12 weeks. So every Wednesday, I would leave Derek till 6, walk to his house, got there for about 5 to 7, couldn't go up until 7 o'clock. That's one of the things. Stayed till 8, halfway through a conversation, 1 minute to 8, he was stood up, he walked me to the door, he bid me a good night and closed the door. I did that for 12 times. And I knew that when I came out of his house for the last time, he told me my life would change. I kind of believed him, even though I was on a blow-up mattress in Derek's basement. And sure enough, the next day, I was offered a part-time job, which later turned into a full-time job that week. So after about 2 weeks, I get my pay packet, which, as you know, back in the day was cash stapled to an envelope. That's how long ago it was. And I went to the gas station, the petrol station, and I bought John a little teddy bear, probably about 4 inches high. That's all I could afford. And a card. And I wrote on to the card and I got all my stuff and I walked back to that man's house. And I'm so excited to tell him, I've got a job. I've been working with people like me, you know, making sure that I'm giving them help for alcoholism and drug addiction. And I went up to the apartment. I'm so excited and knocked on the door and there was no answer. So I knocked more. And the woman on the right-hand side came out and says, can I help you? I said, yeah, where's John? Has he moved? And she said, John, who? I said, John, your neighbor. Oh, I've only been here a couple of months. I've never seen anybody in that apartment. I'm sorry. She closed the door. I went to the left-hand neighbor. I knocked on there. Big guy came to the door. What do you want? I said, where's John relocated to? He said, John who? I said, your neighbor, John. He went on to tell me that that apartment was derelict. And if I was to walk through the door, I'd fall 2 or 3 flights down and probably kill myself. So I'm thinking these guys are crazy because the stuff he's taught me, John, is mind-blowing about life, philosophy, God. So the next day I went back to the meeting where I'd met John. And as I walked through the door, the chairman was like, Robert, awesome to see you. And I was like, thank God for that. I thought I was going insane. I said, does John still come here? He said, John who? I said, the guy who was over near the coffee machine, asking him, will he sponsor me? He said, no, I'll be his script. That John. And he said, Rob, we thought you were praying or talking to yourself. So we left you alone. There was nobody there, Rob. You were speaking to yourself. We've never found that man, but he's one of the reasons we have a 98%, where the nearest one to us is 9%. And we have been going strong and healing people after that day. And now we're over in America doing the same. And when I got wealthy, I got the best private detective agency in Manchester. Nobody could find it. Nobody has ever heard of me.
Wow. Well, I've got to tell you, that story gives me absolutely crazy goosebumps, and it's just so amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that amazing story with all of us. And I have absolutely no doubt that you had some divine intervention. Do you believe that to have been your angel?
Only been the way, because what's happened since there is about 25, 30 times where, again, I'm putting, I went in for a back pain. They overdosed me. I dead. Somebody woke me up. They're not supposed to be there. I mean, I got cancer in esophagus. They called my parents and down for the final x-ray, the cancer disappeared. I mean, it's all this stuff that's been happening to me most of my life since that day. So it has to be some kind of angel. I 100% agree that it is. Too many things has happened in my life for it not to be.
Well, you're absolutely meant still to be here. I have no doubt about that whatsoever. Can you tell us a little bit? I mean, you've already mentioned how that has changed your life, but what would you say would be the biggest influence that that has had on your life?
Well, first of all, I messed my first life up. My children were taken from me ages 1 and 3. The last thing my daughter said to me was, Daddy, Daddy, please stop drinking, as the authorities marched him off down the path. I got to realize that we get 2 lives in one lifetime, people who go through what I've been through. So why don't we take chances in the second lifetime? And that's what I've done. I mean, I don't say no to anything. I push the envelope. I take risks, calculated risks. And it's this kind of attitude, Dagmar, that I have today. I signed an office lease in Dallas a couple of years ago for $1 million. People thought I was insane. How do you sleep at night, Dr. Robb? You must be, what's the worst can happen? What can they do to me that I haven't already done to myself? I mean, what? You're going to take the office of me? Big deal. I'll get another office. So it's that not caring what people think about me. That's the number one fear that everybody has. And secondly, I truly believe that I can do anything we want. So we go from homeless here to being the most successful addiction doctor here, who works with A-list celebrities, actors, movie stars. We give 25% of our earnings back to charity, back into addiction houses. It's humanly impossible, I think. But once I had that spiritual awakening, I believe I can do anything. And now we're just going into studies of Alzheimer's and dementia. So we've had a couple of patients that we've trialed and tested with a 13% recall of short-term memory where everybody else has failed. So we're excited. It's still exciting times. It really is. I'm never going to retire, Dagmar.
Well, I actually don't know what that word means. It has no meaning to me whatsoever.
There you
But
go.
I love your story. I love the way that you're helping people, and that's obviously part of the divine plan. Dr. Robb, would you like to share a way that people get in touch with you and maybe they can contact you through any books or messages that you might like to share with the group?
Of course, yeah. So my name is Dr. Robb Kelly, ROBBKELLY.com is the website. Jump on, follow us on all platforms. Just put Dr. Robb Kelly, 2 Bs, remember, in any search engine, up or pop. Come and chat, come and say hello. If you need anything, message us. We just want to be here as an example to anybody that's struggling. And you have to believe that if you are struggling, A, it's temporary, and B, you are meant for better things. That's just the bottom line.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Now, you mentioned a book earlier. Would you like to share details of that with our listeners?
Yeah, and so it's called Daddy, Daddy, Please Stop Drinking. So let me tell you real quick about it. That's my daughter there. You can't see it, guys, but Dagmar can see it. And that's me wasted on a visit. When I assaulted my wife with a knife one night because she wouldn't let me finish drinking, I cut her 3 times. She was taken to hospital. I fled to Spain because there was a murder charge out on me, or attempted murder. But she lived, came back, took the children, and I got them back the next day from my attorney. He'd been to court. I took him into the living room. I put me in front of the TV. I walked into the kitchen. I'd been sober for 3 days. And I thought it wouldn't be a great idea just have one drink to celebrate the kids coming back. 2 days later, when the police kicked the door down, and I'd been in a stupor for 2 or 3 days with bottles all over the place, and the children had been fed or changed nappies. I can actually say nappies instead of diapers. So the police kicked the door down, and they kicked me awake. They served me with unfit father papers. I stumbled to the door. Mum had Charlie, my eldest, and mother-in-law had my youngest. And they walked down the path. I'm there, they're there, the police are there, there's child services, child protection services. There's about 10 people. And as they walked away, I'm sobbing. Even one of the police officers was sobbing. And my daughter turned around and she said, Daddy, Daddy, please don't go. And then further down the path, she turned around again and said, Daddy, Daddy, please get better. And as they got to the wrought iron gate, they opened it and she turned around one more time and says, Daddy, Daddy, please stop drinking. That's where the title of the book comes from. So it's a story from, I grew up on council estates. I worked the doors. I didn't manage to go to college. Went to Oxford University through Freemason friends. But I've got to tell you guys, after 30 years of my daughter being estranged from me, she sent me a message on Facebook 4 years ago in the middle of the night here. And it said, Dad, she called me Dad, Dagmar, after 30 years. I have that framed on my wall. I want to see you. I've got something to tell you and show you. And the next few hours, we have people around us for that stuff. Next few hours, we're on a plane back to England. And we get there. They stayed in the hotel, walked round to her house. I was so scared. Before I knocked on the door, she opened it. We held each other. We cried. We laughed for a few minutes. She took me by my hand. She walked me into her living room and she handed me my 3-month-old granddaughter. That girl is my lead therapist in my Manchester office today. So that's what the book's about.
Wow. You've actually totally left me speechless and I'm astounded. So it's such an amazing, amazing story. And, everything has a connection, doesn't it? Everything that goes around comes around, doesn't it? And I'm so glad that you got to reconnect with your daughter and with your granddaughter. Dr. Robb, what would be your final messages to our listeners today? If you had a message that you would like to share, what would that be?
There was a guy that went to the Golden Gate Bridge over here, threw himself off and suicide. Police pulled him out the water, went back to his house for next of kin. He lived on his own, found a note on the kitchen table. It read, "I'm going to walk to the Golden Gate Bridge, throw myself off and commit suicide unless on the way there, which was an hour's walk, somebody smiles at me, somebody nods, somebody says good morning. If that happens, I will stop right there, turn around, and I'll try again tomorrow." Question I'm going to leave you with, guys. How many people have you passed today who's headed to the Golden Gate Bridge?
That's a very deep message. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And maybe we all need to remember a little bit about that little bit of kindness, whether it is a smile, whether it is a nod, whether it is helping your neighbor. Can we all do that for each other? Dr. Robb, it's been such a pleasure to have you on the program. For all our listeners, I do hope you get in touch with Dr. Robb. There's bound to be a beautiful message there for you in some way, and perhaps that he even can help you. So I do hope that you've got something very special from today's show. In the meantime, if you found this episode valuable, please share information about the show with 3 people who you believe would find it beneficial. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a 5-star review on the platform where you're listening. Until the next episode, blessings, and may your life be filled with hope and inspiration.